Do you ever wonder how cheaters in 40k get away with it? Well, you may not like the answer. Hello and welcome to Incursion Tactics. Today I will be mostly talking about cheating. Specifically, how to catch it and what you can do to stop it. As an experienced player, I've seen my fair share of cheating, angle shooting, and just general poor etiquette. And what's the solution to all of this? The one you don't want to hear? Well, it's you. I said you might not like the answer, but the cold, hard reality is that cheaters get away with it because their opponents let them. But by the end of this video, you will have some powerful tools to handle foul play in an effective way should the need arise. Let's get started. And before anyone says this sounds a lot like blaming the victim here, take a step back and think about this from a cultural and behavioural norm perspective. We craft the culture that we want for this hobby. Just in the same way that we don't say anything if someone litters in the street when political extremism runs rife. If we don't say anything, we don't stand up for these kind of things that we want to correct in terms of behaviour, no matter the scale of the problem, it is allowed to then run rife in our community. Now, I've taken some very extreme and random examples from life because it rings true in the 40k community. If we have a bad experience in a game, it's up to us to call it out. I'm quite a deadpan individual. It can be quite intense when I play games. I don't mean to be that way, but I've received feedback that I can look quite angry. And this happened once in a tournament and I was mortified. The guy said, you look really pissed off. I was just very deep in the tank thinking about how to get out of a bad situation in the game, and I was just giving off this really moody vibe, and I apologised, and without my opponent being brave enough to say anything, it could have created a really awkward experience in the game. And I was really grateful that they felt confident enough to mention that and call it out, because that's not how I should have been behaving. And even though I wasn't intending to behave in a certain way, I was, and it's something that I can take away from that game and think about in my body language and demeanour moving forward. And without calling these things out, it's not that I was, obviously the example there is not me cheating, but in the scenarios where somebody is cheating or we believe them to be behaving in a less than fair way, then if we don't call it out and encourage correcting that behaviour, then people won't change. They either won't know that what they're doing is wrong, or they will feel that they can get away with doing something that they know is wrong. Hopefully this illustrates the point that the confidence to speak up against bad behaviour is absolutely critical in crafting the culture that we want. So we need to be bold. If someone is doing something wrong, then call it out. They might have got something wrong innocently, but if we avoid confrontation, we can't stop the cheating. We can't stop any poor play. Whether it's an innocent mistake or a deliberate attempt to gain an advantage, we can't stop it if we don't confront it. I've received complaints about players after games in the past when I've been judging events, and it's too late at that point. When I ask the players why they didn't say anything, the answer is often the same. I didn't want to waste time. I didn't want to pause the game. It was a lot of effort. Ultimately, that's a load of fluff, which is basically them saying, I didn't want the confrontation. And I get it. Nobody wants to deal with that. We're there to have a good time, and the confrontation does require a lot of effort and putting us in a very awkward situation. But if we don't have that conversation, you let them win. And you get the scenario that I've just described where people, they accept it, they get on with it. You may as well hand them the game from the offset and say, well, you're not going to bother. You're not necessarily having to call someone out for cheating when you have this confrontation. And it is a confrontation, and I'm going to use that word because it's important that we call it what it is. But when you confront that head on, you're not necessarily saying, hey, I think you're cheating. But what you can do is lay down an expectation on how well the game will be played. A perfect example is, say someone rolls dice behind terrain. Sorry, buddy, you need to roll the dice where I can see them at all times. I will obviously do the same. Please re-roll that. That's not rude. That's not saying you're cheating, but you're saying that's how we're playing the game. If they've got rules wrong, then it's saying, okay, I appreciate we all make mistakes, but that might be the second or third time you've got the rules wrong now. Do you need to check something in the codex? Do we need to get a judge over to clarify things? We need to be making sure we're getting the rules right, because that's a couple of times now and it would have favoured you. That's not okay. There's nothing wrong with you saying it's not acceptable that you are getting multiple rules wrong that always seem to favour you. I'm not saying you're cheating, but you need to be aware that that's the third time that's happened now, buddy, and that's not acceptable. You need to learn the rules that are in your army. There's nothing wrong with that. That's highlighting it. What you're saying at that point is, okay, I see what you're doing and I'm not going to stand for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as we're polite and firm, we're setting expectations of how we expect the game to go. There is a minimum requirement at events that people will know their rules and understand their rules. I've played games before with people that don't know the rules. They're not trying to cheat, but they just don't know their army very well. And that can sometimes be a painful experience, not because they're cheating, but because they just don't know the rules. So there's nothing wrong with reminding people of that and saying, look, if you need to take a moment to just check your rules and read through them properly, I'd much rather you do that now. And also, if people are getting things wrong, you can ask to see the rules. There's nothing wrong with that. Having the confidence to address these things. If you're not happy about something, then speak up. Ask to see rules. Ask for clarification. And if anyone starts to get defensive, the moment anybody starts to get defensive, that's when you take a step back and say, okay, gotta call a judge. We should be using judges at events much, much more often than we do. I think about the recent hoo-ha in Toronto, an event. I'm not going to get into it here. If you want to learn more about the events in Toronto and that whole thing, then check out Epic Flail. They did a really good discussion on it on their Meta Monday show. Well worth a watch. From what little I've looked into it, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but where was the judge? Where was the conversation with the judge? Look, this person has done this multiple times. This is not okay. Whether or not we think they're cheating, you need to bring this to the judge's attention that they've got the rules wrong multiple times. They've failed to maintain a game state multiple times, and that's not acceptable at tournament level play. The judge needs to be made aware of that so that they can have a conversation, they can give out a warning, they can give out a penalty. Calling a judge is so important. They can't help a game, they can't help resolve a dispute, identify if someone's cheating without you making that effort and calling them over to get involved in the game. They're there to help, so use them. And hello, by the way, appearing on camera for 2 reasons. The first is to debunk the myth that I am actually a machine. Have had a comment suggesting that I might be a robot, so I'm here to confirm that I am just a normal man robot. And also I want to share that I'm going to be doing some members only content very, very soon for just $2.99 a month, price of a cup of coffee, that if you want, there is going to be a way to support the channel. I've been so grateful for all the support, likes, comments, subscriptions, subscribers. It's really, really nice to be able to talk about my experiences, share my learning with all of you. And just with the members content, it's a chance for me to really lift the lid on the topics that I'm talking about. Nothing about the free content that I put out there is going to change. You're going to continue to do that. So don't worry, nothing's being taken away from this. But because of the extra time and resource that goes into making these videos, it's going to be a members content thing. So if you want to support the channel, if you're interested in a bit of a deeper analysis or some additional things around the topics that I talk about, I'm going to be making some extra bonus content around each of the subjects that I do, as well as longer term, some additional content based on what the members want to see and anything else that I want to talk about, maybe some deep dives on strategies and specific things in the codex. The main focus of the channel, I want to remain on the sort of wider 40k tactics and things that can help players in more general sense, so that we can learn and grow and share our experiences together. And some of the members content might be a bit more specific. So if people want to know how to beat Space Marines, for example, then I can go a bit more deeper in those kinds of videos and focus the content on what people are wanting to see. And that way I get to keep doing what people seem to be liking in the main videos every week as well. So that was the update. $2.99 a month. That's going to be coming very, very soon. Just a little bit more admin to get that up and running. So yeah, keep an eye out for the first members video, an extension of how to talk to judges, how judges go about things in terms of resolving disputes, resolving cheating. That will be the very first members video out either this week, maybe next week. Again, depends on the time frame of sorting out setting up the members only stuff. So in the meantime, thank you again for everything that you're doing to support the videos. And if you don't want to support with the members content, it's absolutely fine, but you still want to support in some other way, then just continue to like the videos, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and just leave comments, get that conversation going. Let YouTube know that you're enjoying these videos, and then more and more people will enjoy them. It's such a really effective and simple way if you do want to show your support. That's how you can do so. So back to it. And when we're talking to judges, we want to stay calm. When we're talking to our opponents, we want to stay calm. This is a very, very important element in how to handle cheating or negative behavior. When we're dealing with people that are actually definitely cheating, their bread and butter is misdirection and defensiveness. They will call you out. They will be very, very passive aggressive, very, very overtly sort of snippy in their tone to sort of say, oh, you're being ridiculous. Gaslighting in a sense, really saying, well, you're the one with the problem, buddy, not me. And often they will double down on their truth that, okay, no, I rolled a 6. So no, you didn't. That was cocked behind the terrain, sort of. That wasn't a 6 there. A, you should have rolled it where I should see it. B, I don't think you actually rolled a 6. No, I rolled a 6. I definitely rolled a 6. Dude, why are you being over the top? This is only a game, mate. I think you should chill out. I rolled a 6. Why are you getting so funny? Wind your neck in, buddy. That then is very rage-inducing because you know what you saw and you know that they know what you saw. And that, as I say, misdirection and defensiveness goes hand in hand with cheating. They've got to pursue that narrative and double down on the lies. And that can be really, really infuriating. And the number one thing you can do to better equip yourself against cheating, stay calm. Do not rise to it. Do not get into an argument. The moment you start shouting, arguing, getting into debates, doesn't matter how right you are, the moment you do that, you've lost. Think of it from the judge's perspective. You've got two grown adults arguing over a game of toy soldiers. Their number one priority is not sorting out your ego, the cheating person's ego, and at that point, all they really care about is maintaining a friendly, pleasant environment. It's the single most important thing because they want people to come back to their events, have a nice time. This is not what 40k is about. So the second any of this stuff rears its head, it creates an entirely separate issue, one that overshadows anything else that happened before it. Stay calm. Do not let your emotions derail the actions that you need to take. And just to remind you, we should be confronting anything like that, this mock dice scenario, politely inform this is not how we play. I'm not accepting that result. You need to be playing fairly, doing things in the correct way, whatever the situation might be, politely, calmly. The second they start to get defensive, funny about it, that's fine, buddy. We're going to call a judge and the judge is going to be made aware of this and they'll sort it out. They will help us to resolve this. And every time something negative happens with that player, if there's someone who is particularly bad, continue to get that judge over. I don't care how long that takes in a game. So many times I've heard people say, oh, but that takes loads of time away from our game. That's going to be an issue in our game. Well, mate, your game's already been ruined because you're playing someone who's trying to cheat you. So that experience has already been soured. Either you're going to have a miserable game and lose and they've cheated you, you haven't involved the judge, and you're going to be leaving that feeling really, really bittered. And then that person is going to repeat that game after game after game. Or you're going to confront that person and make them cheating as difficult as possible, involve the judges, and you give the judges a data point. So when it gets to, I don't know, the finals of a game in Toronto and some guy's been, on camera doing some dodgy stuff, they can go, oh, okay, he's doing some things on stream that look a bit suspect, and he's had complaints about him in the previous game. That helps us to then put a case together to what we want to do to handle this. Give the judges that information, that ability, that help to be able to sort things out. If you just internalize it and don't deal with it because you can't be bothered to have a conversation or confrontation, then you let them win. It's so important to craft in that culture, playing the game in the way that we want to play it, and arming the judges with the information that they need to be able to resolve disputes. If you don't utilise the judges, then those players are going to continue to behave in a negative way. They need to learn that players wholesale are not going to just accept when they're being mugged off, essentially. And that's how they rely on it. That's how they get away with cheating, is they rely on you going, oh, I don't like that, but I'm not going to do anything about it. They don't care about you. They're trying to win the game by cheating you. Why would we be okay with that? Why would we want to let that person win? And even in non-tournament environments, both the pieces of these advice are vital. Having the confidence and staying calm just to tackle the issue, have the conversation and say, look, this doesn't feel right. What's happening here? This is how we need to play the game. Can you meet me halfway here and do that? And if they can't, then it's like, look, that's not how I'm going to play, I'm afraid. This is not acceptable. This is not how we play. It's not cool. And if you are playing casually and experiencing relentless cheating, despite you having tried some of that, then honestly, the best thing to do is just address it head on. Not in an aggressive way, but just say, look, this isn't acceptable. I'm not going to play with you until you can fix this. Calling a judge at an event is one thing, but without that sort of framework, sending that message through the community, I'm not going to play you if you can't play without cheating, or someone's consistently displaying negative behaviour. That's how you've got to deal with it. And then at events, if they're consistently displaying that, then call a judge and inform them. It's the single most important thing you can do, and it equips the judges with information that they might need moving forward. They might only receive a warning in the game against you, but that might be enough to then help them rule on something later in the day. He does it again. Right, there's a yellow card now, or a red card, for example. We've already warned you about this. Use the judges. They're there to help you. And in my members video, I'll go over some of the ways we can talk to the judges and have that constructive conversation and get into a bit more detail about how TOs might approach these things. And whether or not there's a judge involved, that onus is on us. We might not be the ones starting the problem with the devious behaviour, with the cheating, but I said it at the beginning of the video, the solution is you, with us, the wider community, crafting the culture that we want to see, stamping out that behaviour and identifying it in the first place and saying it's not going to fly in this game, at the club, at a friendly game, at tournaments. I'm not going to get rid of it completely, but that mindset of making it clear we are not going to stand for it is the best way that we have to arm ourselves against that sort of behaviour. And it's not the only thing we can be doing. I talked in my last video about some really impactful ways to play more efficiently. Some of the things that I discussed could also help safeguard you against potential cheaters and foul play as well. So if you like this and you want even more information on how to play more effectively and have more enjoyable experiences playing 40k, then check out this video. And don't forget to check out the video description for Epic Flail, Return to the Old World and Bored Stupid. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Keep rolling those dice and stay tuned for more.